Welcome to the Ignition News. We love to have you here, but remember to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Click that like button, that subscribe button, and leave a comment below. It's going to be a great show. Welcome to the Ignition News. Let's get busy with the truth. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. It is March 25th. 2026. It's been an interesting start to the morning. I'm wondering how you're doing. There's actually some really interesting stories today. I thought I'd try to have a more focused, positive news day. How are we doing over on TikTok and Instagram? Check in. How are we doing? Thanks for following the show. Whoever just is pumping stocks in the show, please get rid of them. Good morning, everyone. It's really good to see you. Let's take a look at the trivia of the day. Today in history, the first color TV, 1954. RCA began mass producing the first color television sets. They featured get ready for this, 12.5 inch screen. 12.5 inches of pure 1954 color, $1,000. In today's currency, what's going on Instagram? In today's currency, that is approximately, get this, $11,500. AI summary, discussing a new song while sharing a story about an Uber driver. I mean, that's accurate. What else? In 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King led 25,000 people to the state capitol in Montgomery. Pretty awesome. Like, lots of good stuff today. I was telling you this. The first wiki in 1995, Ward Cunningham made the world's first wiki, the Wiki Web, public. It laid the technical foundation for collaborative sites like Wikipedia. Let's see. In 1983, Michael Jackson performed his iconic moonwalk for the very first time today during a television special celebrating Motown's 25th anniversary. Incredible moment in history. Got a lot of hype up today. 42, Aretha Franklin was born. She's a lot younger than I thought. Good for you, Aretha. Elton John was born. 1947. Elton John was born today. And Gloria Steinem, also born today. Some quick facts. Brown bears are capable of running at speeds of up to 35 miles an hour. Sharks do not have any bones, as you probably know. Their skeletons are entirely made of cartilage. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I haven't quite figured it out. Good morning and welcome to the Ignition News. Let's get into the top stories. I don't know what's happening over on Instagram. We keep getting shut down, so I feel like it's a good time to remind you to please follow us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, specifically Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Substack. I am probably going to disconnect the YouTube podcast feed just because it's causing me more problems than it's worth. So if you do follow us on YouTube for the podcast specifically, I'm going to need you to find us somewhere else. So we have just 4 stories to talk about today, but let's get into it first. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but there is a $500 million question about corruption. So let me just get off right to the beginning and just say very clearly that there need to be people who go to jail for this time in American history. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability. We cannot have gone through all of this. We cannot have gone through this radical shift and test of our democracy. We cannot have gone through all this struggle, suffering. We cannot have gone through all of this for there to be no accountability. Let us start with the most brazen story. So we talked about this before, but about 15 minutes before President Trump posted on Truth Social that they had re-engaged with talks in Iran, somebody had placed $580 million on oil futures trades. $500 million. They mysteriously, just 15 minutes before the president's Truth Social tweet, whatever you want to call it, placed a $580 million bet on oil futures. So what happened was, obviously, because the president said we're re-engaging with Iran, oil prices dropped, stocks jumped, and whoever made those trades walked away very, 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 very rich. This is not, of course, an isolated incident. There have been several patterns of similar suspicious activity, trades made right before the president makes an announcement. Before the Venezuelan operation in January, an anonymous Polymarket account placed a $32,000 bet on Maduro's capture just moments before it happened and walked away with $400,000 in profit. The White House, for its part in this, is calling this baseless, irresponsible speculation. That is all they said about this. But here's the thing. It is not impossible to know who conducted these trades, when they made the trades, when they made the transactions, when they pulled the trigger. This is information that will come to the light of day. Senator Chris Murphy said this, I think, rather succinctly. He asked right on social media, who was it? Was it Trump, a family member, a White House staffer? I mean, it's not as large of a pool as we might imagine. There are very few people capable of taking the risk of a $580 million trade mere moments before the president is about to make his announcement. And of course, this is on the back of what is happening to all of us right now, a 42% increase in the price of electricity since 2019. 33% surge capacity pricing if you happen to live in one of the 13 states, if you happen to be one of the 67 million customers that gets your electricity from the JPM group, you have seen an 833% price increase in surge capacity. And it's starting to show up at the polls. Let's move on to the next story. Good morning. Welcome to the Ignition News. Some pretty wild news out of out of Florida, Texas. I don't know if I said Texas. Some pretty wild news out of Florida, right in the president's home district in Mar-a-Lago. First of all, before I bring that up, I do want to point out that the president of the United States, who is actively waging a war on mail-in ballots, actually voted by mail for the election that we're about to talk about. This rank, aging orange hypocrite who is trying to take away your right to vote by mail, but really is actually trying to take away the vote by mail for poor people, Black and brown people, people who work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. While he's trying to take away your right to vote, he cast his mail-in ballot for this election. But guess what? Even the vote for the president of the United States, the most powerful, obviously most corrupt man in the country right now, his vote counts no more than your vote. In the raw, unfiltered, actual moment of true power, his vote did not count as much as your vote if you live in Florida. And how did that show up? Well, Democrat Emily Gregory flipped District 87. That is literally the district where Mar-a-Lago is located, the home base of Mar-a-Lago. The last Republican who had that seat won it by 19 points in 2024. The president himself won the district by 11 points in 2024. This is a first-time candidate. She owns a fitness company serving pregnant and postpartum women, and she won by 800 votes. Incredible. Incredible. Gregory did not just run against Trump. She ran on affordability, public education, and healthcare. She told her supporters on election night the following: nobody thought this was possible. They thought we were crazy. She told an interviewer afterward she was having an out-of-body experience. But let me also be very clear about one thing. This is something I said in a different format. We cannot take the sort of massive sweeping victories that Democrats are having across the country and attribute those to favorability in the Democratic Party. Do not mistake the fact that Democrats are massively winning in special elections, that somehow the American public is believing in or supporting the Democratic Party agenda. The Democratic Party establishment is failing in real time the greatest test of our lifetime. But it proves only one point, that the real resistance to American fascism is happening on the streets, with your feet. Welcome to the Ignition News. I have another pretty cool story. My favorite senator, Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC, they announced that they are intending to introduce legislation calling for a nationwide moratorium on data centers. This is a bill to impose a nationwide pause on all AI data center construction across the country. Not pausing to take a study or like, let's assess, let's understand, just a full outright stop. By the way, two-thirds of all data centers are being constructed in areas which are water constrained. Two-thirds. Covered this in another format yesterday. In Lake Tahoe, the California side of Lake Tahoe, there are 49,000 customers. They get their electricity from a place called Liberty Energy. Liberty Energy gets its energy from NV Energy because, well, if you know the area, they are on the other side of Sierra Nevada mountains. To get power from California up to the California side of Lake Tahoe, you would have to bring that up the mountains. It would cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and it would take a decade, conservatively. Well, NV Energy pumps that power into Lake Tahoe because it's on the Nevada side and it's easier to get that infrastructure down. But NV Energy has decided that it is ending its contract. It is ending its contract with Liberty, which means 49,000 customers in Lake Tahoe are without power as of May 2027. Now, the plan is to allow NV Energy to charge its own customers $4.2 billion to build a data pipe or an energy pipeline to service these data centers, and then charge Liberty Energy more money to tap into the new energy pipeline. But if nothing surfaces, there is no infrastructure on the other end of the mountain. They cannot plug into the California power system, and if they don't come to some kind of deal to repurchase electricity through some market, those 49,000 customers are going to be without power. But all across the country, they are leaping, bending over backwards, doing all these things to allow AI data centers access to power infrastructure. Here in my state, Nevada, our power company has committed to expanding the power access 3 times to service the data centers specifically. And who pays for all of that? Well, it's simple. We do. If you're one of those 67 million customers serviced by JPM, you're going to see your power bill go up by $70 per month conservatively. That is, of course, not to mention what happens to the environment and what happens to the lack of tax dollars coming into your community. In Virginia, $1.6 billion of tax credits to data centers. What was the result? For every $54 million that the citizens of Virginia invested into giving tax breaks to data centers, they got just one job. One job for every $54 million. It would be better for the economy of Virginia to take each one of those jobs, those people, and give them the $54 million and say, go spend the $54 million on whatever you want. If Virginia did that, instead of giving away tax breaks to billionaire data centers owned by billionaires, the economy in Virginia would have been considerably better. Do you see what I'm saying? Imagine that. Getting $54 million, here's $54 million. And if you think that sounds outrageous, just try to imagine that a company sucking the resources, the literal air, the water, and the power. Why is it that they are entitled to that amount of money, but it is outrageous to say, just give $54 million to one person again and again and again and again, and watch them go spend it in their community? Talk about a stimulus check, right? But there's no reasonable argument to say there's none. You cannot say it is better to give the data center $1.6 billion than it is to say, go find a bunch of people in Virginia and give them $54 million. Just go find a bunch of people and give them $54 million. If they had done that, it would have had a better impact on Virginia's economy. Do you see the absurdity of the picture that I'm painting for you? They would have gone out and bought new trucks and new houses. They would have got their nails done. They would have got their beard colored. They would have gotten their house painted. They would have put new garden in the back. They would have bought a new lawnmower. They would have started a business, all these things. This is the fallacy of the system that we live in right now. We justify this idea that somehow we have to prostrate ourselves to these billionaires, that we have to do it. We have to do it, or else they won't create the jobs. Think of what a state could do with $54 million, what kind of programs it could create to make jobs. Do you think if the state of Virginia spent $54 million that it would generate just one job? The mask is off. Whether that's energy, whether that's trades on energy, tax breaks to these billion-dollar companies, literally turning off power to 49,000 people. Can you imagine living in Tahoe right now? I mean, I understand people probably don't have a ton of sympathies like, oh, your $2 million lake house is going to lose power. People, understand what's happening to us right now. And the final story is about ICE at airports. This idea of having these ICE agents there. We know that largely in blue cities, here's a list of the 14 airports: Atlanta, Chicago, New York, New Orleans, and Southwest Florida. What happened after we deployed ICE was the following: longer lines, more chaos, and viral videos of ICE agents going buck wild on passengers. And this propaganda plan to troll blue cities is literally just, it's failing. It's having the opposite effect. It's flailing in real times. It's not helping to make anything faster or better at the airports. And we now know, of course, what happened in LaGuardia. This plane crashes. It was absolutely heartbreaking. There's video and audio of this incident. There's audio of the air traffic controller. There was an emergency. They were sending a fire truck out on an emergency. The fire truck crosses the lane. There's one air traffic controller. One. Then there's this horrible crash, and he says, I messed up. If we were supposedly this amazing country, this great empire, this big, beautiful country, we would have more air traffic controllers than we needed. If we needed 1,000 air traffic controllers, we would have 2,000 air traffic controllers. Air traffic controllers would not be working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. Air traffic controllers who are responsible for your literal life would work 6-hour days, 4 days a week, and they would be paid very well, and they would have all the access to healthcare, mental health care, vision care, everything they needed. You don't feel well? Don't worry. There's 3 other people there. They're ready to take your place. We have overstaffed air traffic control. Why? Because we believe in life, because there is no cost too great to ensure that every flying passenger in the United States of America can get from point A to point B safely. There is simply not a cost too great for that. Unless the cost is to supplement power for data centers, unless the cost is to give tax breaks to billionaires, unless the cost is to continue to deteriorate all of our infrastructure across the planet, not just in the United States of America. In a country operating as we say we operate, we would have more air traffic controllers than we ever needed. Somebody says, no, we only overstaff ICE and police. Exactly. If this country cared about people as much as the arrogant people claim, who say they love America, by the way, if we actually cared about our people as much as if we were actually great again, we would never have a problem with having enough people to make sure that your family or your packages or your pets or your prescriptions or whatever could safely get from point A to point B. It's a complete absurdity, but it is failing. The effort to terrorize American citizens by putting ICE agents in our airports is simply proving that in addition to not being able to do their actual job of enforcing immigration, they also can't do the actual job of keeping our airports safe. And the common thread between all of these stories is simple. It is about power, who has access to it, and what they do with it. And as I started the show, I will tell you one thing, how we close this out: insistence, persistence. As I said, what's happening with the Democratic Party has nothing to do with the Democrats. There is not wide sweeping support of the Democratic Party, but there is wide sweeping momentum demanding change and wrestling that power back at the voting booth. For everyone who tells you, oh, voting's not going to get us out of this, voting is getting us out of this. But it's not enough just by itself. We have to vociferously, ferociously defend that right. That is our last, least sustainable right. It is actively in danger. And if you don't see that, if you don't believe that, if you're not willing to do everything necessary to protect it, then you are complicit. You are as complicit as Chuck Schumer. You are as complicit as Hakeem Jeffries. You are as corrupt and complicit as whoever made that $580 million trade, who made themselves probably billions of dollars while you are paying more for your gas. Do you not see the absurdity of that? You must be prepared to protect your last sacred democratic right. If you don't believe you can wrestle power back, you have already given up. I don't think that's you. I don't think that you are a coward. I don't think that you have a lack of courage. In fact, if you're listening to the Ignition News, I think it is precisely because you realize one thing. You are tasked with, responsible for, and directly in charge of carrying more weight than most everyone else you know. And you know that. And you understand that. And it fucking sucks sometimes. And it probably pisses you off sometimes. And on top of it, as I have spent my morning realizing, a lot of the worst of it is you have to realize while you are lifting the weight, while you are carrying the load, there's a fucking lot of people who choose to actively sit on the sidelines and just bitch about it from the sidelines, as though somehow they are powerless. To whine about it on the internet, to complain about it, to be complacent in your cowardice. Oh, voting's not going to get us out of this. Oh, there's a protest this weekend. There is a battle happening in this country. A battle for the soul and the future of where we go. But you are not engaged in any kind of battle if the extent of what you do is bitching from your couch seats. You are complacent. You are a coward, and your voice means nothing. And you might get some little hearts and some little likes, and you might get some people that have your little snark energy, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, the weight of history will look at you, you little couch warrior, and it will see you for what you are. But the rest of us, what's a little frustrating, the rest of us are still working every single day, getting our feet on the streets, getting our hands dirty, building coalitions, registering people to vote, pushing back, going to city council meetings, standing up, using our voices, demanding transparency, demanding accountability. And we're not stopping. And we won't stop. And you know what? We might very well fail. But it takes a lot more courage to embrace in a great task, knowing well that you might fail, than it does to sit on your couch and bitch. But I'm just talking to someone who's not watching the news. And I should be talking to the rest of us. Take a break, to take a breath, and then to re-engage in the work that we are doing. Common thread today was power. For 49,000 people, it is literally, will you have power in 2 years? Literally. Well, less than a year, actually. A little more than a year. My bad. 800 people wrestled power from the sitting president of the United States in his own backyard. We are a country of 350 million people. Just 800 people wrestled power from the president by voting in his backyard for a Democrat who now is the sitting congressional representative of that same president. That is power. So you will forgive me for being excited today. You will forgive me for being optimistic today. You will forgive me for seeing the cowards for what they are. There is strength and power and unity in the work that we're doing. And they cannot take that from us. That is the show, everybody. It is March 25th. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignition News. We'll see you back tomorrow. This has been today's episode of the Ignition News. Please consider following us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, or Substack. We're here to deliver to you unfiltered, uncensored news. Let's get busy with the truth on the Ignition News.